Good morning, everybody. This is a kind of like half lesson where we're going to just go over how you all did with your case briefs. And then when we're done with that, we'll talk about what you need to prepare for the next lesson. As usual, this will be up for you to read shortly. The prep work for this class is to complete the assignment and how to read a case, your previous lesson. And the homework is going to be review your case brief and then read cases for next week. So, how did you all do with your case briefs? Overall, you're off to a great start. For what I assume is going to have been for most of you your very first briefs, you did a fantastic job. But there's a lot of misconceptions here and a lot of people who are putting things where they shouldn't be. So we're going to take just a minute to go over my version of the case brief. My biggest thing is that don't worry if I put notes on there that said, hey, you've got a lot of work to do or anything like that. This is why we did this assignment, so that you all can understand where we need to go so that we're doing things for you. Or so we're doing things that work for you. When you are doing these briefs, they're primarily internal documents, and so a lot of people put tons and tons of citations in there. You really don't need those. While I definitely tell you, hey, don't plagiarize and stuff like that, this is kind of the exception to that rule, because what you're going to end up doing with these briefs is using these to rely on for yourself. It would be like in notes. You don't cite your notes. Similarly, you don't cite case briefs. Let's take a look at my brief in OneNote, and we'll go from there. So this is OneNote, everybody. Some of you have not seen this, and if you haven't, you kind of need to get in here. Everybody should have a link. I'm showing all the students that are listed in self-service on here. If you don't, please make sure you contact me. So hopefully everybody at this point has read Rodriguez versus the United States. If you haven't, number one, make sure you do that, because this is not an assignment that I have you doing for busy work or for, because I just think it's fun for you to have to read. This is something I'm having you do to make sure you have the foundation necessary to be reading these cases and getting what you need to get out of it. So if you have not done the assignment yet, make sure you get that in. I will give you until the end of the day on Monday to basically make sure you've done it. So without further ado, the facts of the case, which I did cite here for your all's benefit. I would not have normally written such a complex factual basis. I would have said something like, dude got pulled over, and after the traffic stop was concluded, the officer asked if he could search the car with a dog. Dude said no. Officer did it anyway and subsequently found methamphetamine. A motion to suppress was filed, and after hearing the evidence, the court overruled the motion. Dude was convicted. This is really informal. You don't need to really worry about names too much. You don't have to worry about all kinds of, like Nebraska. You have to get down what's important for you. But for you, because I understood most of you would be, hitting this for the first time, I want to make sure I had a good factual basis here. So the factual basis of this case, I summed it up my way. You can read this because it's now in the content library for you all to see. But that brings us down to the issue. And the issue in this case is really straightforward. That's why I assigned this case. But some of you missed it. So we'll talk about how we're going to fix that in a minute. But the issue here is that, can a traffic stop be prolonged for a canine sniff? That's the question. When we're talking about issues, these almost always can be rewritten in the form of a question. Maybe the issue is declared in the case in a sentence, or the court is called upon today to address the issue of X. You can rephrase that into a question almost every time. The rule is the rule that you're going to apply to the facts of the case from above in that application section. So here the rule is going to be the Fourth Amendment, and is specifically We could list other things here, but it's going to be the reasonableness of the search. So if we were to write this out as an equation, we'd say conclusion equals facts plus rule. And we could rewrite it as facts plus rule equals application. So conclusion is equal to the application. The big thing is, if I could spell, the big thing is that you want to separate these out, because when you go to look at this again, you want to make sure that your rule is really easily defined for you to find. We could be talking about some Missouri law instead, in which case, if I'm flipping through case briefs, I want to be able to find that, oh, okay, this isn't the Fourth Amendment, this is Missouri section 500.042 or something. So the application in this case is that the traffic stop had concluded as a warning was issued. Therefore, prolonging the traffic stop for a time, however short, renders the stop unreasonable. I went on to note this because when practicing criminal defense, I really care about this subsequent portion. Notable in the opinion is that an officer must be reasonably diligent in executing the mission of the stop, and being a super trooper does not earn the officer more time. They must be as fast as is reasonable, but if they are faster, they don't get bonus time. And the conclusion here is that the sniff was unconstitutional as it violated the Fourth Amendment. The evidence seized was excluded as fruit of the poisonous tree, and it wasn't, we should say, should be excluded as fruit of the poisonous tree. I also like to include subsequent history. Some people put it in as follow-up. Subsequent history is going to be what happened after the case was decided. In Rodriguez, it's important because poor Rodriguez lost in the end. After this, the Court of Appeals concluded that the officer acted under good faith, as this is a new thing to consider in Fourth Amendment analysis. They therefore sustained the trial court's conviction and evidentiary ruling. A subsequent writ for cert was denied. A couple of notes here. When you want to get in front of the Supreme Court, you don't just get to go there unless you're on death row. You have to file a writ for certiorari. We'll just call it cert, or a writ for cert. And you're asking the Supreme Court to say, yes, this is a big enough deal that we want to take it up. A couple of other quick notes. I'm going to put it on here so you guys can see it later. In the federal system, and this is more of a technicality, but they have magistrate judges, district court judges, circuit judges, and justices. Lots of words here, but these first two work hand in hand. Magistrate judges and district court judges, the magistrate doesn't have much power on their own. The magistrate judge is going to be somebody who helps the district court judge. So in cases like this, the magistrate judge will typically have the suppression hearing and issue recommendations as to what should happen. So the magistrate hears the evidence and they say, gee, I think that it should be this, and here's why. The district court judge is actually going to be the person who signs off on it or not. If you don't agree with the magistrate, you appeal to the district court judge. If you don't appeal to with the district court, which is, this entire block, then you can appeal to the circuit court. If you don't agree with the circuit court, you can appeal to the Supreme Court, the justices. But that's an important thing to keep in mind. Does it matter? No. Is it important to try and keep things consistent and use words that are correct? Yeah, probably. So just a quick thing to note there. changing gears for a second. Let's move back to how we are going to fix this information. So again, don't worry about this. We talked about what I did, but you don't need to be scared if you didn't get it perfect. You all have not been to law school. This is hopefully not something that you have to do very often. Nonetheless, you're going to be much more successful in this class if we practice this. So first off, what next? If you have not done the assignment, I'm going to give you some extra time to get it done, but you need to get it in. Everybody else, if you have done the assignment, thank you for doing that. I have written notes on your briefs within OneNote for you to correct things or look at things if you want to. This assignment is for completion. It is not, going to be graded for how well you did. Mostly I want to make sure that you all have the opportunity to make sure you get it right. So if I were you, I would take a few minutes to write some notes or fix some things, and I will give you follow-up notes based on that. Next, this is a process. So I do not think that any of you guys are going to be rock stars at briefing a case just because of this one lesson. I expect that it's going to take some time for you to be good at identifying what you want to remember from reading a case. That said, do please try and engage in the process, because while I don't expect perfection, I do expect you to be moving in the right direction. So because of that, we've got some homework. By the end of the day, Monday, please turn in your revisions by editing your OneNote file. Please do this. Like I said, I want to make sure everybody's going in the right direction, because we've got a good thing and bad thing about the way we're doing the course. The good thing is that by being online, we can basically work at our own paces. The bad thing is that means that I have to give you assignments like the one below that look god-awful. But nonetheless, we've got a lot of ground to cover, and we don't have much time to cover it. So please practice. Please work with me on updating your case briefs for Rodriguez versus United States, so that when we start working on these other ones, you are ready to go. All right, now for the next lesson, I will plan to have the video up for the next lesson on Wednesday. By Saturday, you're going to have to get all of your stuff in. That means your discussion boards, your briefs, etc. Again, like we talked about with the first lesson, my idea of how you guys are going to work through this is you're going to read the cases and brief them. You're going to watch the lesson. You're then going to do your discussion boards. You don't have to necessarily do it that order, but you do have to get it all done. Next class, we are going to begin talking about about who gets to interpret the Constitution. And we're going to learn basically that the Supreme Court gets to do that. These three cases deal with that. So I have included these in the notes. They have the citation if you want to go to the citation. Otherwise, if you click these, it'll open the corresponding pages. So I'm trying to start you off small by only assigning 3 cases. And remember, only read the majority opinion. You don't have to read all of the dissensions and stuff like that. But that's the goal, is to have that all read by the end of the week, because Saturday your stuff is going to be due. I have had quite a few students reach out to me. Please continue to do so. I really appreciate it. If there's anything I can do to help you with any of this, please let me know. Great work so far, everybody, and I look forward to seeing what all we do the rest of the semester. Have a great day.